Vern Troyer said, "A cab, fuck the cops. Welcome to Happy Suffer."
He probably did.
I hope so.
So his last words.
Yeah. This is episode 91 of I Hope You Suffer. My name is Nathan.
I'm Kit, allegedly.
I, as always, am Katie.
And everything is the worst.
Yes.
Times like this that I regret doing a podcast that I had to force myself to watch garbage.
Okay, yes, and because this movie had a lot of topical things in it for what's going on, and it just made me feel bad that I was watching it.
A lot of fingering.
That's
a
not
lot of tongue action.
So many vascular gnomes.
And a dick.
I
getting
hate
cut
gnome
off.
vascularity.
Yeah, we watched 2015's Gnome Alone. Cause
I'm confused as to why it says
everything-
Gnome Alone 2.
Where does it say that at?
Like, if you just search Gnome Alone in IMDb, it says Gnome Alone, and then parentheses it says 2.
I wonder if that's
Really? Because on Rotten Tomatoes it says Gnome Alone Legend.
well, because there's an animated movie called Gnome Alone, so maybe that's why. Like,
But that came out after.
yeah, but that's
The
one.
cowards.
Let's pretend that this Gnome Alone is
No,
the
I
one
can't.
everybody is aware of.
Oh wow, Josh Peck is and Tara Strong and ew.
Well-
I'm not watching it anymore. Patrick Stump's in it.
Of course, Tara Strong's
Ooh,
in it. She's
Steve
in
Blum.
everything animated.
I don't know any of the names you said except for Fall Out Boy guy.
Nash
That's the-
Greer.
Tara Strong is in, like, she does like every animated thing. She was
Oh,
Bubbles
she was
on
in
Powerpuff
Fairly Odd
Girls.
Parents, right?
She was in what?
Fairly Odd Parents?
Probably. Yeah, I think so. I think she did Timmy.
She's a legend.
Yeah, she's in like everything.
Yeah, she's Raven
Ah,
and
no.
Teen Titans Go.
This
Anyways,
Gnome Alone.
This is a Tara Strong podcast now.
yeah, right. We're switching gears.
I'm down.
So,
Fairly Odd Parents for an hour and a half.
that show, when you really think about it, is real fucked up. Just like almost every Nickelodeon show from that time. Like, think about Rocko's Modern Life and how fucking insane that show was.
It is. It's just.
Remember the episode where they all got sucked up into the vacuum and had to live in it? I'm thinking about that episode.
I think about the episode where they go to the beach a lot because we have like random days here where it's like the upper 80s for no reason, and we don't have like AC, so I'm just like, oh, God.
That sounds fun. You should get an air conditioner. Just put like one in every window of your house.
I wish I could. Our windows, we have like no windowsills, so
Yeah, just replace the entire window.
I need you guys to just all band together and send me some duct tape, and I'll just like duct tape it.
You should
That's
get
fine.
like
I'm gonna send you tiny fans to put on the cats.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm here for that.
just put like a leaf on their tail.
I can see it now. I think that'll go really well.
So I guess before we dive into the movie, the world's on fire, justifiably.
Yes, real talk.
And not to like promote shit, but just we have our shirts on sale at storefrontier.com/IHopeYouSuffer. We are donating any proceeds we get for the foreseeable future to any bail funds that are currently needed, or like we donated $52 to the Brooklyn Bail Fund the other night while they trapped protesters on a bridge. Kit donated $50 to what was it, Black
I want to make
homeless
sure I get
thing?
the name right. It is the Homeless Black Trans Women Fund.
Yeah. So Kid had said when we first, like, when all this started going down, and I was like, you know, we're going to donate proceeds. He said if we had 10 more shirt sales, he would donate $50, which we hit yesterday as of this recording. I just said the next 10 we do, I'll throw an extra $50 at, like, whatever is needed at that moment. Everybody, if you get, even if you don't want to buy a shirt and you can donate to just anything, bail funds or like Black Lives Matter, kind of anything that's needed at the moment, because fuck cops.
Yeah, if
Fuck white people.
If you've been
everyone's
following,
on fire.
say if y'all have been following any of us on social media, I think we've all been posting pretty consistently different like organizations you can donate to and ways you can help.
Yeah, there's also, like, I know for me specifically, I'm on a very, very fixed income. And I know a lot of other people are, especially because, like, you know, we just also had the coronavirus stuff that's still going on. There are tons of resources, ways you can help without, you know, giving all of your money that you have to, like, survive on. So if you can donate a little, awesome. But if you can't donate actual physical money, there's so many resources. If you haven't seen them, just slide on in my DMs. I will share them with you. And you can also, you know, support Black-owned businesses in your area. And there's a really good resource for finding those wherever you are, and it's www.google. Literally just Google it in your area, and I promise you they will come up.
Yeah, I say one of the biggest things you could do, find people that aren't on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, show them videos of police brutality going on right now, because they're probably not seeing it on their news, especially if it's your racist uncle or parents or whoever.
Your white parents.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Because
100%.
Yeah.
everything is the worst, and we should defund the police and try most of them as war criminals, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Anyway, Vern Troyer fingers a lady in this movie, so we had that to watch this week.
I know you guys can't see me, but I'm, like, chugging tequila right now. I can't deal with this movie.
I want you to realize, so, like, last night I had watched the first maybe 20 minutes at home, and then I had to go to work, where I watched the rest of this movie while I was working.
That rule.
So it was just like, oh my god, what is happening? It was like almost everything in this movie took a turn that I was not expecting.
Oh my gosh.
It went so many directions that I could have never predicted.
Because I had texted you guys when I started watching the beginning of it, and I was like, this sucks. And then Kit later was like, oh no, this movie rules. And so, like, I don't think this was a good movie. I also don't necessarily think it was a terrible movie. It was like, I feel like if I would have saw this a decade ago, I'd have been like, this is fucking great. But
I was gonna go the opposite. I feel like if I hadn't watched so many bad movies, I would have thought this was the worst movie. There's a lot of stuff in it that's like, but like, it very much took me by surprise. I was not expecting probably like 70% of the stuff that happened to this movie. But the thing that I will say about it, and we'll get to it, it has two like pretty in-your-face themes and like messages. Like, they made this movie to put across some messages, and I agree with the messages. So that's what I'll say about it.
Yeah,
Gnome's rule is that message.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I genuinely do. I think Vern Troyer was actually pretty good in this, even though he's just crazy. Like,
even though he's a gnome.
I don't think he's necessary. He's not like R.I.P. See at the crossroads, Vern Troyer, but like,
Pour one out, yeah.
He was not like a bad actor, especially when it comes to kind of like comedic stuff. And I think him being the kind of like, essentially this movie is just a ripoff of Leprechaun. Like, for the most part, it's like a horror movie where the comedy is from this, like, you know, little person killing people, and like, you know, that's where like all the jokes kind of come from.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
so like he does a pretty good job of like, you know, being the comedic relief, I guess, of the movie. Like he's got very good comedic timing. And so there's like things that like he does and says in the movie that I was like, okay, he's actually pretty fucking good at this. And like it's kind of a shame, like I feel like he could have been a pretty good actor in like horror comedies if like he was still alive.
Yeah,
I feel like he would have killed it in like sci-fi original movies.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Could just replace Tara Reid with Vern Troyer.
That I would watch.
Alright, so this was directed by Timothy Woodward. It was inexplicably written by 3 people. Glenn Ennis. Well, it was written by and then rewritten by, and then there was like some other credit, but
additional scenes.
Yeah, like Glenn Ennis, John Michael Elfers, and Lauren D. Normandy.
A guy with the last name Elfers wrote the Gnome movie that has a leprechaun in it.
Yes.
That's great.
As we've said,
Incredible.
It stars the jack of all trades star Vern Troyer. Silence from both of you about jack of all trades. I see.
No, we were just paying some respect.
Wow.
I was thinking of his O-face.
Star of the sex tape that
The one and only.
I googled earlier that I have regrets. Carrie Knupp. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Is Zoe Knuppe. And who cares? Everybody in this movie was terrible besides Vern Troyer.
I thought I didn't look up her credit, but I thought I recognized the mom.
I didn't recognize any of the other names in this movie besides Vern Troyer's. I felt like the cop that is like constantly after Zoe, I felt like looked familiar, but then when I saw his name, I was like, I don't know this name.
Oh, here she is. Kinley Farrow is her name. Nope, she's not been in anything. She just looks like someone else, I guess.
I can't believe y'all didn't recognize Massimo Dobrovic.
Who was that?
He was Thug number 2, and he was from Navy SEALs vs. Zombies, where he played Dave.
Oh, Dave.
I haven't seen Navy SEALs vs. Zombies.
Yeah, so I took 0 notes on this.
They're not
so,
necessary.
Yeah, I
don't think.
I feel like I only want to talk about like 5 scenes of the entire movie. So Vern Troyer just wags his tongue a lot in this movie.
I didn't like that. I gotta be honest.
Awesome.
Yeah, definitely the worst part. I don't know, Katie, did you do like plot notes or?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Oh, well, we could do that, or we could just be like, oh, this was a scene I sort of enjoyed watching.
I mean, I only have like 3 pages of notes, so it's like we could just do that.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not like it's super like plot intensive, I guess, but
I mean, okay, so this movie is weird because I do want to talk.
Don't say.
It starts off as like an animated like.
Fucking forgot.
I was really
so good.
confused because it starts off with this like little animated thing where we're told that there was a leprechaun who was in love with a witch, and the witch like stole his gold coin or something. I don't know, but it's really funny because like there's the scene of this like witch and she's like laying underneath like a bearskin rug or something, and the leprechaun's like laying on top of her, and it's very funny because she just like pushes him off and steals his gold, and the leprechaun's mad, so he gets some random guy to help him like kidnap the witch, and then they put a brand on her, which is quote unquote the mark of the beast. I'm not really sure what that is about.
Yeah, because it was not a pentagram as far as I can remember.
Oh, it was like a I don't know what it was. It kind of looked like one of those like new metal band like logos or whatever. And then
Speaking of, the singer for Trap just had his phone number doxed on Twitter.
yeah, so get him. Okay, so then the witch is mad, so she goes to the Swamp Sisters, who
You said it so casually.
Well,
You know,
I
the
kind of,
Swamp
They go
Sisters.
Swamp Sisters. It's fine.
I'd be like, I'd be a Swamp Sister. It's fine. They just like, they're just like in the mud, and then they like give you magic. Like, sounds cool. So they give her this chest, and there's a garden gnome inside, and it's like a little doll, and it's actually super cute. And then he comes to life. And so then you find out basically that the garden gnome is supposed to protect her from the leprechaun, and basically like she's reincarnated throughout time forever. So they like pass on the mark when they die, and then the gnome just follows and protects, question mark. Like literally all he does is like let you get beat up but then kills people, so I don't really know. He's kind of like, I don't know.
He's Blake.
Yeah. So the person telling us this is the current witch, who's, huh?
No, I said current gnome.
Oh, he's always the gnome. So it's the current witch is a lady named Miss May, who, she is like just living on the streets because she's got this like witch mark, I guess. And I can really see why, because what happens to Zoe, who is our main character, is like pretty bad. Like,
Yeah, she didn't seem like she was having fun in this movie.
no, she really doesn't. And so, we set up Zoe to be, she's like pretty much the only person in this movie who is like not a piece of shit. She's just a normal girl trying to, live her life, and she works at, I don't know, you only see her at work once, so I don't really know. She works at like a little convenience store, and she gives Miss May some money, and she sees like Miss May's brand on her arm, which looks super gnarly. And then we get a really terrible scene of these guys like hassling May for money, and then they beat her with her cane, which was like very terrible. And that's why I'm like, okay, is the gnome really supposed to be protecting her? Because he like straight up just lets her get beat, and it's just like, hey. And she's like, okay, well, you go like show them. I guess because they have to wish for it. So she's like, go teach them some manners or whatever.
I didn't understand any of the rules behind the gnome in this movie, so...
Because, like, first of all, I don't know any gnome lore where wishes are involved. So I don't either, because, like, they made it a point to be like, you have to be like, I wish that guy would fucking die. And then the gnome's like, cool, I'll go do it. But there's, like, parts where he acts on his own, even though no one said I wish. So, like, sometimes... So I think it just has to be, like, a very strong intent of yours. I don't know.
Let's
so...
see. Can gnomes...
Grant wishes.
Can gnomes grow beards?
I mean, obviously, yes.
Kind of fucking
I hope
stupid
Google answer says I don't know.
Gnomes are very gentle beings and like to ensure that all living creatures remain unharmed. Hard to disagree based on this movie.
Based on both the movies we just watched.
They are quite clever, enjoy reading, gardening, and granting wishes.
Oh! Well, I stand corrected. I had no idea.
Y'all, I just Googled gnome magic, and under images there is a power lifter garden gnome flexing in someone's yard. And I hate it.
Oh my god.
Gnomes are easily scared away by loud noises and are usually fearful of large adult humans unless deeply angered.
Oh!
Although they will scurry and lurk about, causing mischief and mayhem to anyone that can.
Oh my god!
Anyone they can out of sheer evil enjoyment. What are gnomes good for?
Absolutely nothing.
What a good question.
Say it again now.
Well, at least we know they can grant wishes now, so now we gotta get a gnome.
So I guess basically what you're telling me is that this movie is canon,
Yes. This gnome is
except for
a
except for everything else you said.
this is absolutely a documentary.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Are
So
we at the
she's
dick cutting off scene yet, or what?
no. So
Boing.
basically, the gnome. I didn't really write down any of the gnome quips, but basically he says one-liners every time he kills people, like pretty much, right? So the gnome like kills the two guys. He like, I don't know what he does to the first guy, but the guy throws up his organs and stuff, and then the other guy gets
That's
stabbed.
pretty sick.
Yeah, the other guy gets stabbed in his eye with the key.
And then falls mouth first onto a garden gnome. And Vern Troy says it left a bad taste in his mouth.
Yeah, that's right.
Oof.
Whatever that means. This is the only time we see an actual garden gnome, also, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
So then we see Zoe and her friend Logan basically are getting bullied by these two, like, blonde people named Brad and Melissa, who are dicks. I wrote, I don't know. They have this like teacher who's like teaching psychology, and she is like sexually harassing all of her students, and also like makes out with Melissa, the blonde girl.
It's
in her office.
Weird dynamic with all of her students.
Yeah, this is the first point of the movie, and I was just like, God damn it.
Yeah,
Also,
I don't.
All of her students are like 44.
I mean, yeah. You ever been to a high
So
school?
yeah,
This
that's
is
very
Not
weird.
I was 44.
what they don't tell you is this is actually Bayside. So
Right, pretty much. So basically, then after that, you get this kind of like. Also, Melissa like knows that Zoe just saw her making out with the teacher and is like totally cool with it. I mean, that's fine. So Zoe goes home, and we get like all of these scenes basically about how her mom, I guess, is an alcoholic, and her stepdad is fucking gross. And I don't really want to go into more detail about him because every time he showed up, I wanted to throw my TV
I could not
out the window.
fucking wait for his death.
So basically, he's just like gross and like touches her and stuff, and is a dick. So then we're at Brad's house party, and I think his name is Landon. They like tell Landon to go buy some beer, so he goes to the store and buys beer. And somehow, as soon as he gets in his car, he's had like 8 beers somehow, because they're just like all in the bottom of his car. And of course, he hits May, who is the witch. Zoe finds her, and then the brand gets passed on to Zoe. And I actually was kind of sad because the gnome sees that May's died, and he cries a little golden tear. And
I
So-
noticed that.
Yeah.
Watching that part, I immediately texted Layla, "No more tears." with our soul.
Oh my god,
That's
you
my
guys.
entire contribution to this.
I've had the No Mercy theme song stuck on my head for a whole and I can't get it's like literally just the part where he's going no mercy, and then the back it's like beep beep. I cannot get it on my head, and it's driving
I
me
mean,
crazy.
it's pretty much the best song.
It's a perfect song.
Yeah.
Goodness. So yeah, the gnome's sad. I wrote a sad face. So then the cop, who I don't know what his name is, and doesn't matter because he's a fucking dick. So we get this scene basically about how the cops are like fucking dicks, which is one of the main themes of this movie. Guy like doesn't really care. He says a bunch of really gross stuff. I don't even know. I just really I wrote literally a bunch of gross stuff, so I don't really know. It's like not really listening to Zoe try to say like, hey, I saw who ran over May. He doesn't care because she was homeless. And then, so Zoe is like really messed up because she was, friends with May. She goes home and is like crying and stuff, and her stepdad tries to come in her room and be gross and is gross, and the gnome is pissed. So then we get a scene of the gnome finding Landon. And the scene actually I thought was pretty funny because the gnome is like driving his car and he like drinks a beer. And he says, I don't know what the one-liner was, like, beers to
I
you,
do.
or so, what was it?
He goes, this one's for you, bud.
Right, okay. And then he, like, hits him. You get a shot. I don't know. The gore in this movie was, like, sort of weird because sometimes it looked cool, but then they also added weird, like, special effect blood that I thought was kind of weird. So, I don't know. You get, like, the shot of his kneecap being busted open. Then,
I feel like there's this span between the stepdad when he's introduced to, I think, I can't remember the first death I remember the homeless lady, and then I feel like the next one I remember specifically is the cop.
There's a lot between that.
No, maybe the teacher was before that.
Yeah, so it was the two guys, then it was Miss May, then it was Landon who hit Miss May, then I think it's the teacher. Basically, you get like a lot of scenes of Zoe. Like, okay, also this movie was like an hour and 40 minutes or whatever, way too long. There was a lot of scenes of like Zoe thinking, because you get a lot of shots of the gnome just like standing places and going hee and like laughing and like being creepy,
flicking his tongue,
like
classic gnome shit.
Yeah, you know, just like goofing off. And you get more of like her home life. We get this scene where the teacher is just like a jerk again.
So the teacher, like, there's numerous times that she's just like hitting on students and being a dick to Zoe.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all you need to know about her.
Yeah, and she like calls Zoe out in front of the whole class because Zoe's like, hey, could you stop touching me? And the teacher kind of is like a real dick about it.
Oh my god, I can't wait to get to the weekly world news update.
Oh my gosh. Okay. There's something about Zoe says something about wishing that Brad and Melissa would know that they smell like shit or something. I don't know. And the gnome like puts a chicken in Brad's car and the chicken like poops. I don't really understand like the side part.
Classic gnome prank.
He's so mad.
Yeah. And
who placed this chicken here?
Yeah, it's really weird. Zoe goes to Logan's house. His house is cool as shit. There's like plants everywhere. There's like a pool with it reminded me of that brother-in-law's house from The Mangler, where it was just like a fairy garden for no reason. And I also wrote Logan is wearing Adidas. So we have two gnome movies.
And a podcast.
And then they're basically they just like talk about the teacher, and the gnome is just like looking in at them the whole time, and Zoe's
Real
basically
weird.
Zoe's basically just like, I don't understand why she's like picking on me, basically. And then Logan tries to defend her, being like, I don't know, it's pretty stupid, but then that's how the gnome is like, okay, I'm gonna go after her now. So we switch to the professor, who is like harassing another girl who's in her office, and is like, oh, I can give you some extra credit or some shit. And the girl's like, okay, I need to leave. And then the gnome shows up and has a cleaver and like chases her around a lot. There's a lot of like really gratuitous like shots in this movie too. So she's like running around in like a tiny skirt, and the camera's like up her skirt and shit. So I don't really understand like what the point of this was, but the teacher, he like chases her out onto like a I don't know what you even call it. It's like a fire escape, and she like gets on the other side of it so that she's holding onto the bars and just hanging off over the street, which I'm not really sure what she thought that was gonna do. But she's basically like, no, and then he chops her hands off. And she falls to her death, I guess, but we don't actually see it.
Not a good plan.
No, and he says something about, like, maybe that'll teach you to keep your hands off people or something like that. So that's, like, the other overlying theme of this movie, with, like, the teacher and the stepdad basically just being like, they don't touch people if they don't want to be touched. Like, it's not cool.
Yeah.
Zoe is mad because she has now read in the paper that the police don't have any leads in Miss May's death, even though she told the police that it was Landon. And so she goes to the police station, and the cop, who, like I said, I did not write his name down, shows up and is like, basically threatens her. He's like, nobody cared about Miss May. No one's gonna like press charges for her or whatever. So like, just forget about it. Get out of here. And then
pretty accurate depiction of a cop in this movie, I would say.
Yeah. Yep. And at this point, Zoe, like, at this point, nobody knows that Landon's dead. So, like, that's sort of weird to me. But, so then there's, like, this scene where Zoe's mom is talking about how she sees a little man or something, and that the gnome gave her a coin, and they just think that she is, like, delusional, basically. And the stepdad's like, she's crazy, I don't want to deal with her, or something like that. So then the cop, there's like the scene of the cop like eating donuts, and he calls Zoe after the like his boss is like, you need to figure this out or something, and just like yells a bunch of obscenities and is like super gross, and tells her that she should go to the mall and watch Miley Cyrus or something. I was like, okay. So
that's what
whatever girls do is what he says. But he says a bunch of other really gross stuff. So then the detective shows up and tells Zoe, now we find out that Landon's been killed. And she's like, okay, well, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, he was the one that did it. And the detective was like, well, there was 2 witnesses that say that he was at the library when Miss May was killed. So, like, it wasn't him. And now he's kind of like implying that they think Zoe has killed Landon, which like doesn't really this whole like cop plot is one of the most frustrating parts of the movie, because like there's a part we'll get to later that I just like wanted to scream.
Yeah, I mean, essentially like the entire thing happening in the movie is she's making wishes, just like anger wishes, but doesn't realize that like there's a gnome granting them, and it's just leading a trail of like dead bodies that are traced back to her, and like inexplicably, like, it's weird.
Yeah, which is why I said it really makes sense to me why Miss May just like didn't want to be like in association with anything or anybody, because like I could imagine, I don't know, I think I could use the gnome for some good right now, but whatever. So Zoe gets, his name is Officer Kelly. I finally wrote it down. Zoe gets Officer Kelly's message about how he was telling her to watch Miley Cyrus or whatever. And she's basically just like, I wish someone would tie him up like the pig he is, or something like that. So here we go to the cop. And I kind of like missed like why this happened, but the cop shows up at a warehouse, and it's like a meat packaging plant or something.
Want to be with his family.
Oh, burn. Vern Troyer's fucking
Sucker.
Going off on this cop and like making pig noises and shit, and it rules.
Yeah, he has like a donut that he like wrote "Here Pig" or something in the jelly of the donut.
This is the point that I was like, all right, I'm on board with this movie.
Right. Okay. So the gnome, like, I don't know, gets him with a meat hook somehow so that he's hanging upside down. Does anyone else want to take?
I feel like this was Kit's favorite part. So.
Yeah, go for it.
So I don't remember details. All I know is Vern Troyer unzips dude's pants, and a far too large penis plops out and makes a very loud boing sound when it does. And Vern Troyer proceeds to grab a cleaver and just lop it straight off, followed by a solid 5 or 10 seconds of just blood spraying everywhere, and it was delightful.
Yeah, and it like splash, it like plops down into like a puddle of the blood, and the cop like picks it up for some reason, and I was like, what is happening? And I agree with you. Way too big. There's no way.
I do remember thinking, why does this penis look like that after it lands on the floor? Because I don't know what's going on with it, but nothing good.
Anyways, I really have to admit, was not expecting that to happen. So that was something. Never seen that before, I guess is what I'll say.
No magic.
What? It's no magic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the magic of the gnomes.
That's true. So then the police question Logan about Zoe, and they're like, basically, do you think she did this? And he was like, I don't know, she's acting weird, but she is under a lot of stress because people keep dying. Okay, so this is the part that made me really, really mad, because the detective shows up to tell Zoe, like, what they think is actually happening here. And he says that he thinks Zoe was the one that hit May first, and then Landon saw her, so she lured him out to a parking lot saying that she was going to have sex with him, and then she killed him. And then she killed Officer Kelly because he didn't believe her, and he was going to expose her. And then he's just like, I have your psychology homework here. And I was just like, what the fuck is this? Is the dumbest shit I've ever heard of. Like, especially because there's a part where she's like, did you think he was going to get his dick sucked? And I was like, Jesus Christ.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about all that. It's fun.
Bad. It's very bad. So, then so then Zoe goes to Logan's house, and I think someone mentioned the bong. This is where the bong is. And, she's just like, oh, this is really crazy. The detective told me all this stuff, like, whatever. And then, this is like, kind of confusing, because May, like, touched her neck and was like, I'm branding you, I'm sorry, or whatever. But then the brand is, like, on her lower back for some reason. And Logan sees it and is like, what is this? And she, like, freaks out and has a seizure in which she, like, remembers. So everything that happened in the very beginning of the movie, we re-see now, which is, like, why did they feel like they needed to show us this twice? So she's, like, remembering all of her past lives, and then she's also seeing that it was her wishes that I wrote. Her wishes did murders. So basically, she's, like, hearing her wish and then seeing him murder people. And also, my note is, why is she wearing a wig all of a sudden? She's, like, definitely wearing a wig for the rest of the movie.
I don't remember.
Was that one of her wishes?
Maybe.
She slided in, like,
Maybe.
one of the murder wishes?
I don't remember the wig, but her, like, seizure seemed, like, pretty terrible.
Yeah, and she, like, threw up and stuff, so that was weird. So basically, she's, like, talking to Logan about, like, everything that's happening, and he just, like, pretty much believes her. Like, didn't really take that much convincing. And then she realizes that the only people left that she, like, made wishes about were Brad and Melissa.
Which gets to my favorite scene of the movie.
This is the part in the movie where we'll get to it. So Brad is having another house party. Brad and Melissa are, like, in the room making out, and then she says something about, like,
she's like, so they start, like, making out, and, like, she's like, do you have any toys? And he's like, what? She's like, do you have any toys? And he's like, oh, yeah, I do. And goes and gets, like, handcuffs and a blindfold. And then he's just like, they make out a little more, and he's just like, all right, I'll be right back. And then I don't understand any of this part.
No, this is when I texted you guys and was like, what is this movie? Because he goes up, so you find out earlier that this is, like, a frat house, because I skipped the part where the cop shows up at the frat house and tells Landon, like, hey, don't worry about hitting that lady, like, I was a brother here or something like that, and, like, I got your back, it's fine. And he's, like, really gross. I forgot that part. But they go upstairs in this fraternity house, and it's just, like, the upper level is just, like, a sex shop. Like, I don't really know. It's, like, black light and there's music playing. There's like a DJ and there's like pole dancers and there's just like
they've got those like video store like porno section beads.
Yeah, it's like literally the back of a Spencer's, but it's the top floor of their house.
I couldn't tell if this was supposed to be real or like something the gnome was doing.
No, I think it was real because he went up there specifically to get. He was like looking at. There was like a silver tray up there with like things on it, and then.
And then he gets beat with a giant pink dildo.
Yeah, and then.
Dildo cam is the best part of this movie.
It's so good.
And then also there was like a girl up there that was just like chained in a cage or something, and I was like, "What the fuck is happening?"
Wasn't she being electrocuted? Or did I?
No,
make that
he
up?
had no. Landon. Brad like picked up these like what are the things called when you like jumpstart a car?
Like jumper
Doritos.
cables.
Doritos.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's jumper cables for what?
Jumper cables. He has jumper cables and he's like testing out the wares and he's like, oh, maybe I'll use these jumper cables, which like I'm pretty sure she wasn't talking about getting electrocuted, if I may. But so basically after the gnome like hits him, he falls and then electrocutes himself. And the girl in the cage is like, oh my god, what? So then
you cut down to.
I'm gonna just skip this.
What's
part.
her name? Lauren.
Melissa.
I was close.
Might as well be.
Melissa's like handcuffed and like blindfolded in the bed, and she's just like she hears a noise, and she thinks it's was it Brandon?
Brad.
I don't know. Fuck these people.
I mean,
she thinks Brad's coming, and turns out to be none other than our boy Vern Troyer the gnome. Comes sneaking in, causing mischief, where he just starts touching her, flipping his tongue a lot.
She thinks it's Brad.
She thinks it's Brad. Ends up fingering her until she comes, which I was absolutely not expecting.
Mm-mm.
So Vern Troyer fucks. We know that.
We do.
Those little gnome claws.
Ugh.
Bothersome.
It's hot.
Just not my style, I have to say. Not my forte,
then,
if you will.
Like, so after that, he like takes the blindfold off her. She starts freaking out. Very, very
understandably.
He's like, "What the hell are you? What do you want?"
And
he's like,
telling her,
"No."
Yeah, he's like, "I want gnome babies. You want to be my baby's mama?"
And then starts wagging his tongue again.
Yeah. Then it just like inexplicably just like cuts her like safety pins her mouth shut, I think.
Yeah, for some reason.
And then like
he just
fucking
keeps it on him, you know?
just basically does like the end of the movie Hannibal, where he just like cuts just scalps her, and then it's just pulling out pieces of her brain until she dies.
What did he said something weird, like tastes like chicken salad or something like that?
I thought it was a wine he named.
Oh, Chardonnay.
Yeah,
tastes like
that's
Chardonnay.
right.
That's what he said, yeah. And then
strange.
he's basically just like, she's like, starts, having her like death spasm or whatever, and he's just like, die, or something, and finally she dies.
Yeah,
and
he's like,
just
would you just
yay!
die already?
Yeah.
Then he celebrates for a long time.
He does. So then Zoe shows up and finds the gnome with Melissa, who is dead, and she cusses him out, which is pretty awesome. And this is the part I didn't get, because she's like, would you just like go away? I don't want you. And he's just like, no, you're my pet for life, or something like that. And then so then for some reason he decides that like Logan is the next like target, and I don't understand why, because she doesn't ever say anything about Logan.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me either.
So he just like disappears, and she's like, oh no. So she goes out to the party and finds Logan, and it's just like, we gotta go. There's some stuff happen. they get in the car. I don't know what happened, but for some reason they got out and they're like running around on the street. And the gnome is chasing them, and then Zoe decides that Logan has to cut the brand off of her back using a piece of glass that they found on the street, which is pretty gross and takes a really long time. And so finally,
Down to work.
Yeah, so finally, in my head I was thinking like, they don't give us a time period, but I figure Zoe is probably like a long line of, witches at this point, and like, don't you think someone thought of that before? But whatever. So like he disappears, and for like a second you think it worked, but it doesn't. Logan and Zoe like make out or whatever, and then the gnome shows up and stabs him in the eyeball with a broken bottle, and he dies. So then the cops are back at the frat house investigating like Brad and Melissa's deaths, and one of the people there is like, oh yeah, Zoe was here, it was her. Zoe goes back home, and her mom is in the kitchen with like a can of gas, and it's just like she's gonna burn the house down because she wants to get rid of what she calls the quote-unquote green hand, which to me would be a leprechaun. Okay, so this makes sense at the end, I guess, but at this point I was like, what?
Oh, so I didn't even put that together. So does she see the leprechaun? I assume she saw...
Yes.
Huh.
Right, I thought that before
Weird.
she was saying the gnome, but
This
definitely
movie's
is the
dumb.
leprechaun. Yeah, because then, like...
It took us this long to realize it. This movie's actually pretty stupid.
It is, because, okay, so then the stepdad is basically there, and he's like, you're crazy. Zoe shows up and is like, hey, like, stop abusing my mom or whatever, like, this is it. And then the gnome's there, and he's like, hey, and she wishes for the stepdad to die.
So I just realized the biggest missed opportunity of this movie being called Gnome Alone should have just been the mom. I guess that would have been a leprechaun, so that doesn't work either. But like, just the mom story of just there being a gnome and she can't like tell anybody. I don't know. I don't understand the name of this movie. I don't understand what's happening in it.
I don't either, like, now.
Literally, no one is alone in this film.
I mean, for real, because he's, like, literally eternally indebted to protecting this witch, so, I don't know. Okay, so, basically the gnome shows up, and the stepdad, I don't know, the gnome and the stepdad start, like, fighting or something.
The stepdad tries to step to the gnome, and the gnome's just like, no, this is... like, the gnome, like, is, like, joking around with him and shit, and the stepdad's being fucking tough guy, and then I think Zoe says something about, like, I wish you would, like, crack his skull open.
Something like that, yeah.
And then, like, he goes to fight the gnome, and the gnome, like, disappears and, like, reappears like somewhere else behind him and just like bashes him in the head with a vodka bottle.
Okay, yeah. Because I like looked down and all I saw was like his face just like messed up and I didn't really know what happened.
Nothing good.
Yeah, so then like he falls down and the gnome is basically just like, hey, Zoe, I'm here forever. And she's like, no, I hate you, or whatever. And then the mom comes up behind the gnome and like smashes him in the head with a vase or something. So then we cut to the cops coming to Zoe's house, and they open the door and walk in, and Zoe is there's like plastic all over all the furniture, and the mom's there. Zoe and the mom are both just like in their lingerie, you know.
Yeah, Zoe
cash.
Like snaps and like gets. You see her pick up like a handsaw before it cuts to that.
She's just like, oh, I missed that part, I guess. Yeah, and she's just like sawing off the stepdad's head, and the police are like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? Freeze!" And she just like stands up and just like has his head in her hand, and then they shoot her a bunch.
I love how shocked the mom is. Like, she's got her murder gloves on, and she's holding a glass of wine,
And like a
And then-
cigarette. Yeah, and she's just
Yeah.
like, it's cash. You're like, whatever, welcome to the party. And then it cuts to the hospital, and Zoe is there just, recouping. And then you see somebody being wheeled in, and it's the leprechaun, and he wants his golden coin, which is a coin, I guess, like earlier in the movie, the mom shows Zoe that she has a golden coin, but I didn't really understand what was happening at that point, so I was just like, why does... I guess I didn't realize that the reason the gnomes needed to protect the witches is because the witches always have the golden coin. I have no idea.
Yeah, I didn't
and
understand
then
any of this.
the gnome shows up and just does like a karate juke, and then it's the end.
They were blatantly setting up that they were going to do a sequel of like the leprechaun versus the gnome.
Yeah, and so far hasn't happened, but
For some reason in my mind, I felt like Vern Troyer died well before 2015.
yeah, I'm not sure. Let's see.
This movie was real dumb.
It was a film. Allegedly.
He died
We never know for sure.
in 2018.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah,
why.
it was pretty recent.
I remember, for some reason in my mind it was like a while ago, but I guess we've also been living in a year that's like 6 years long, so...
Oh my god, yeah. It does feel
the
like it
past
has
several years have been quite a few decades.
So that was No Malone.
Yeah. Only watch it if you want to watch Vern Troyer be sexy without watching a sex tape.
So yeah, like I said, I agree with the overall themes of this movie, which are the police suck.
And you should kill your stepdad.
Yes. And, don't touch people if they don't want to be touched.
Yeah.
And if you do, you should be punished. But I will say this movie had a few things in it that I have never seen before. So if that's your thing, check it out. I will never watch this movie again.
The end.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have your Zach Baggins tweet of the week?
I do.
Come up with a theme song.
Actually, Kid, did you say how you felt about the movie?
No, but I think it's a good one to watch if you have someone to watch it with. Like, it'd be a pain in the ass to watch solo, but
Do it.
Yeah.
watching it with someone,
Do it while something else. You're occupied with something else.
yes. That way you can look up and get the greatest hits.
Because yeah, it's if this movie had
Because if you're
like
paying attention the whole time, you're still going to be confused.
if this movie had like 20 minutes cut out of it, I think it would have been a lot better. An hour and 40 minutes was too long for this.
Yeah, it felt
honestly,
really, really long.
Cut like an hour and 15 minutes out of it.
This would have been a very good short if it was just Vern Troyer killing a cop.
Yes.
Like, my other thing, too, is I feel like that movie would have really benefited from not opening with the plot. Like, if it would have just started with May, then at least there would have been some of, like, a mystery of, like, what the fuck's happening? And then, like, it still didn't really end up making that much sense, but at least it wouldn't be like, here's all the information, here it goes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Starting off with, like, a leprechaun out of nowhere, and also, like, a Bratz Dolls animated short that was done by Tim Burton. Like, it's way too much at the start.
Well, it's also weird because it, like, starts out with being like, blah, 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 the story of a leprechaun, this is a leprechaun, blah, blah, blah. But our story is not about the leprechaun. I was like, so then why the fuck do we care that there's a leprechaun?
I think they just in their minds were like, we're gonna do this whole series. It's gonna be like the gnome versus the leprechaun, and this is like the Captain America First Avengers version, whatever, like prequel.
Right. It's in the gnome universe.
GCU.
Yeah, the
I think I would have liked it so much more if they just never mentioned the leprechaun at all up until the very end when he just shows up, like, in the chair and is like, I'm here for my gold coin. And you're like, what? Why is there a leprechaun wanting his coin? And then they're about to fight. It's just
'Cause
confusion.
I think that you gleam enough from like if they would have taken out the beginning and then just had the scene where Zoe's like having the seizure and there's just like flashes of her past, like you see the witch steal the coin. So like that would have just been so much better. I don't know. I feel like although I said I agree with the overlapping themes of this movie, I really feel like they feel like who's ever watching this is stupid and like needs to be beaten in the head with what's going on. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't know.
Based on what I've seen this week, a lot of horror people are pretty stupid, so.
That's true. That
Fair.
is very true.
All right, Zach Baggins tweet.
So yeah, the Zach Baggins tweet. This one is technically from last month, but it inspired why I wanted to have Zach Baggins tweet, and it is: when are we gonna find out if Elon Musk is really an extraterrestrial? ? I mean, for real. Kid's name is, I don't even know how to say this, XAEA-12, and he
Zublor?
keeps... Zulor?
Yeah, Zublor.
Yeah.
Zudlor?
Zuba.
Zub?
Yeah.
Zubabafu? And he keeps sending shit to space. And kind of the irony of this to me just like really cracked me up, and I love it. So that's the Zach Baggins tweet.
So,
I refuse to believe that he's an alien, because aliens are going to be dope whenever they show up, and not fucking nerds that I hate.
I will say though, he well, yeah, go ahead.
Weekly World News update: Godzilla battles Mothra from 6 feet apart. There's a picture of it, and the quote is, "Monster's got a monster."
It's true though, they do.
Agree.
I love it.
Paleogeneticists discover first rock band 8,000 years old. ACBC.
That's legitimately the hardest I've laughed this week.
Monk levitates and gets stuck.
Aw.
Man uses mummy wrappings when he runs out of toilet paper.
That's resourceful.
unfortunate.
Yeah.
Not like the Godzilla one. I was fucking losing my mind when I saw Monster's Got a Monster.
Have you guys ever seen the movie Under Wraps?
I don't think so.
It
I don't think I've heard of it.
is one of my favorite. Let's see, what year did it come out? It's like one of my movies that I watch every year, like for Halloween. But the plot of it is that a mummy comes back to life, and like these kids kind of have to like take care of him. It's from 1997, but there is a joke in there where he does use his wrappings as toilet paper.
Really familiar.
I don't know if it was on Disney or it was like one of those kinds of movies.
Yeah.
Y'all ever wonder why mummies keep all of their wrapping on after they come back to life?
Because they're gross.
Seems like it'd be really uncomfortable.
Well, they're like beef jerky people at that point.
Yeah, but if my skin was that dry, I don't know that I'd want a bunch of nasty old paper on it.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
How are you supposed to lotion covered in paper?
Yeah, moisturize.
They just squirt it on
2020.
over the gauze.
So you just got goopy gauze.
Yeah. Whatever.
Gross. Is there any
That's
news?
a mummy movie that's really terrifying.
I feel like it would be a very fun movie to just have like a romantic comedy, but it's just a mummy. I feel like that's never even like addressed. The mummy can't get a date. It's just constantly like got their face mask on and shit. And
Yeah, it could be a
trademark. I hope you suffer. Don't steal that.
Right. I was gonna say it could be a coronavirus, like can't keep you find love, but gotta be covered.
This is a perfect film for us to go back to like mid '90s and have the Farrelly brothers do.
Yeah.
I was gonna say. I was literally thinking like, how come Pauly Shore was not in a movie with a mummy?
Pauly Shore would be a perfect mummy, in my estimation.
I feel like that just the only reason I just feel like I remember. I was like, Pauly Shore, Brendan Fraser, and Encino Man. Oh, the Mummy. I think that's the only connection I made. That I was like, why wasn't Pauly Shore in a mummy movie?
That's a pretty good connection.
Is there
Biodome 2, but they're both mummies.
Oh shit, I'm on board. Is there any news, Katie?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of news recently that has been a lot of like announcements about new movies, and like none of the people involved are really people that we kind of like or talk about a lot. Except I did
And Rob
see
Zombie movies.
there should never be another Rob Zombie movie.
Can't wait for his
I did
coronavirus movie starring Sherry Moon Zombie.
God.
No. Only if it's a mummy rom-com. That's the only way I'm gonna watch it. So there, I just saw that there was like a little bit of news about Kevin Smith's new movie Moose Jaws.
Is that finally happening?
God, I hope so.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been waiting on Moose Jaws for like a decade now.
He's been like since quarantine shit happened, he went back and he's been doing new drafts of his script.
Yeah.
So I think as far as I remember, his plans are he's doing Clerks 3 next. And then I think Moose Jaws. I think there's plans for like a Mallrats sequel in the works too.
Wow. Well, so the thing that I read about it today was there is an interview up about him talking about the movie. And so I guess I didn't realize that this was supposed to be like the end of the trilogy, because so it's Tusk. I had never heard of Yoga Hoser.
Yoga Hosers
Or Yoga Hosers?
I like it. It's very like very specific audience, but I like it.
Is it me?
It was Kevin Smith making it's essentially, I think the way he kind of described it is like if he made a horror movie, but it was also like Clueless, like it's aimed towards like teenage girls.
Okay, that's me.
I
like Miley Cyrus and going to the mall.
I went to a screening he did with like a Q&A, and I don't know, I like it.
Okay. So yeah, I just had never heard of it, and I didn't realize that it was part of like what he calls the True North trilogy. Yeah. So, and the thing that I read about it is like originally, I don't know if it was Jay or Silent Bob, one of them was supposed to be killed off in this movie, and I guess he's decided not to do that. So I don't know. That's just what I read. And then the other thing that I saw was that, so we all know that they've been sort of like revamping the Universal Monsters like franchises, and the one that I read about today that I had not heard was that they are making a new Wolfman movie.
Yeah, with Ryan Gosling.
With Ryan Gosling. Which is interesting, but then I was reading about it and I thought it was really funny because like originally he wasn't supposed to star in it. He came to them with a pitch to direct it, and now instead of directing it, he's going to be the star, and I think there's no director yet, so pretty interesting. I don't know.
What if they make it without a director?
They should.
Have either
Just
of
go
you
wild.
seen Invisible Man?
Not yet, no.
Yeah.
Is it good? I heard it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Like I'm interested that if they're because I know they're like dead set on trying to get this like monster universe thing going. Like I wonder if they're going to follow that same sort of like idea with Invisible Man into this one.
So what I read was that instead of trying to keep reproducing them as part of the same like universe or whatever, the ones that they're doing now, they want to be more like standalone movies. So I don't know what that could mean, if they're going to all be completely different or what.
They should let Ryan Gosling's band, Dead Man Bones, score the entire thing.
Listen, he can score it, he can star in it, he can still direct it, he can do
he can be every character.
Yeah.
He could do the the special effects, like he could just do it all, it'd be fine.
Yeah, I'm on board.
Yeah, whatever.
Just make it a secret Blade Runner 2049 sequel where he also happens to be a werewolf. That'd be sick.
Why not?
And
I'm here for it.
Also the character from Drive. Just has the jacket on. Alright. Do you guys have shout outs?
I'm going to say the sucker for the Suckomatic episode of Rocko's Modern Life.
Perfect. What about you, Katie?
Since we're talking about Ryan Gosling, I'm gonna plug one of my favorite Ryan Gosling movies, which is Murder by Numbers. That also has Sandra Bullock and Michael Pitt. I love that movie. It's so good. That wasn't actually my plug. That just like came to mind. So my shout out is actually Bloody Disgusting, which is a website that is like news. So it's very centered around horror, obviously. And I've said this before, but most of the news that I get comes from them. But they also do like video game reviews, which I really like because a lot of times it's like deep cut games. It's not just like it is sometimes just Resident Evil, but a lot of times it's not. They just released an article about this game called Obscure, which was like a PS2 horror game that I really liked that I feel like most people have not heard of. So I think they do a really good job of covering like all the broad news, but they also have this weekend like really been using their platform for good, and they specifically have this thread that you can go look at on their Twitter feed. I think it's just at Bloody Disgusting, probably. If you search it, you'll find it.
Something like that.
But it's a thread where they specifically asked for like Black horror creators to post their work. And there's a lot of really good stuff. There's like people who do just like photography, there's art, there's like shorts on there. Obviously there's podcasts, and there's two that I checked out. I've listened to a couple episodes, so I wanted to shout them out. One of them is called Nightlight. It's night with a KN, so like knight in shining armor, Nightlight. Which is obviously, like I said, a horror movie podcast. And I really liked that they have done like some of my favorite movies, like they did Krampus, but then they do a lot of movies that like I've never seen any other like podcast cover. And so I listened to a few of those, are really good. And then there's another one called Girl, That's Scary, which to me is hilarious. Just the title, I was like, I have to check it out. And the hosts are so hilarious. I love them. And they do some movies that like people haven't heard of. They just released an episode on that Shudder movie Porno, and I haven't listened to it yet, but that's their newest one. And they do a lot of like, they'll pick a theme and then talk about a couple different movies that they like, and sometimes the other one hasn't seen, and they'll like talk about it, but it's not overall a spoiler podcast. So if you are somebody who just kind of wants like recommendations, it's a good one for that. Because Nightlight is kind of like ours, where they go through like the entire movie and talk about it. So you can follow Girl That's Scary. It's at Girl That's Scary. Nightlight I couldn't find an actual Twitter for, but I listened to both of them. I know that they're on Spotify, so I would say check those two out.
I just jotted down a bunch of kind of Black specific things that I'm like a fan of, and then two that are just things I think people should check out in general. Home Video Hustle is this pretty rad podcast just about movies. They're on Instagram. I think it's just Home Video Hustle.
I feel like were they on Customers Also Watch?
Yeah,
Okay.
Brent, I think one of the hosts was on that.
Okay, that sounded familiar to me. So
there's a podcast with Nicole Byer that I think most people know her from the Nailed It. That she does a podcast called Why Won't You Date Me? That's literally just like about her and their guests' dating life, and it's pretty fucking funny. She's got some insane stories. There's a podcast called Rewind the Love that is a VH1 celebrity podcast that is very good. They do these like insane 2.5, 3 hour long episode breakdowns of like Flavor Love and Rock of Love and all that shit.
Oh wow.
Dude, it's so good. There's a website called Graveyard Shift Sisters that's really good about unpacking like just kind of being Black in the horror genre. I think they were kind of behind the horror noir documentary a little bit, if I remember correctly.
Right.
They're very good. Dude, like they have some very interesting like writing on just Black history and horror. Some cool bands, at least that I like. There's a band called Proper that's really good. Like a punk emo band. There's a band called Soul Glo that are super like leftist screamo band. For Your Health is another one, band from like Columbus, screamo band that's currently got a ACAB shirt for fucking selling for donations and shit. The band
Hell yeah.
Fever 333 just did this pretty sick live stream of a concert that ended with just like this scroll of like every fucking black person killed by a cop in like however long, and it's like a solid like 3-minute scroll of like I think 8 different columns. It's crazy.
I saw just like the screenshot of it, and it's like literally filled. It's terrible.
Yeah, I like that band a lot. They're like this kind of like what I would say is like maybe like a current version of like Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah, I would say that.
Their singer's been like he used to sing for the band Let Live, and has always been extremely vocal with his platform of like where like he knows he's most likely playing in front of a bunch of 20-year-old white dudes with his bands, and he's always been
like who isn't?
Yeah, he's always been super vocal about like what it's like being black in like a punk and hardcore scene and just in general, and like police brutality and shit. Like he's pretty cool. And then I think I've been posting about it on our Instagram and just in Twitter and shit a lot. If you want info on just kind of all of the shit that's going on, and especially just like on the street reporting, there's Unicorn Riot that's really important. Robert Evans from Behind the Bastards and his podcast Worst Year Ever has been like, he moved to Portland to report on like the huge alt-right Nazi white supremacist shit that's going on there, and has been live streaming pretty much every night in the streets. And then just the podcast Knowledge Fight, because basically they've fucking been spending the last 3 or 4 years essentially chronicling and documenting how Alex Jones has turned the media even more to the right, to the point that like there's a conspiracy going around that Fox News is now pushing that Alex Jones created, that is that or it was more than likely was probably created by QAnon people, that has been pushed by Alex Jones, that is now being pushed by Fox News, that George Floyd knew about sex trafficking, and that's why the Illuminati had him killed. So
wow.
like I think a lot of people look at Alex Jones and just think of him as like, oh, this is crazy guy yelling about conspiracies, but like that podcast is like detailed about how everything he's done has basically like ruined the world. It's crazy. But yeah, there's a lot of shit that you should check out. And
I think we'll probably do like a post
yeah,
with just like, because yeah, it is a lot. Well, we can't really, it'll just be a picture of Rocco's modern life, and then we'll just
watch Rocco's Modern Life.
Yeah, I got one more.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to shout out because it slipped my mind. Birth Movies Death, which is a movie website I usually visit just for whatever random news. They're doing a Black Lives Matter fundraiser running until it'll be June 10th, so a couple of days after this podcast is up.
Yeah.
And what you do is if you donate $25 to Black Lives Matter and then email them at bmdfundraiser@gmail.com with your donation receipt, you're entered to win one of several prize bundles. And they've got all kinds of cool stuff, like a Mondo set of Tyler Stout Star Wars posters, a Blade Runner Blu-ray box set that comes inside of like a nice little Blade Runner briefcase.
Oh, yeah.
Like signed Fallout 4 Sugar Bomb breakfast cereal, Cannibal Holocaust poster, Killer Clown shirts.
Ooh, I steer clear of Cannibal Holocaust. I was seeing, like, I think they did it on Last Drive-In, like, last week or something, like, before all of this. And they had posted, like, a bunch of warnings and stuff, and then people were posting about it, and I was like, I really think I'm just gonna sit this one out.
Yeah. It's like a movie that I've watched once. I never feel the need to ever watch again. So next week, we're either doing a gnome named Norm, or we may just scrap that or push that back a week and do something fun instead. So,
Cannibal Holocaust.
yeah. A Serbian film.
I know I say I quit a lot, but I refuse.
So, I don't know. Next week will be something, a movie.
If we end up doing Upworld, it is on Tubi.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll do that either next week or the week after, but after...
Yeah.
Let's just do Mortal Kombat Annihilation again.
Oh my god, I'm
Okay.
fucking on board.
I mean, I
It won't
didn't get to do
die
it
for us.
last
Yeah,
time.
we could have
so-
Katie watch both of them.
I mean, I've seen them, but I'll do it again.
Yeah, we'll figure something out.
I'm still pushing for. I know you guys glossed over it, but I'm still pushing for Batman and Robin.
I mean,
I'm down for that.
I'll fucking talk about that movie all day. We'll figure it out. Like I said at the beginning, we have shirts on sale. We currently have tie-dye ones that we added to it that are crazy.
They're the best.
We're donating.
I think everyone needs like there's 3 original and then 3 tie-dye, and I think everyone needs like one of each.
Yeah, if you
It's
want to be
fine.
a completist, you gotta have all 6.
All right, let's be. Yeah.
But yeah, we're donating all of our proceeds from that for like the foreseeable future. Katie and I were just the day after this episode drops are on a podcast called Contra Zoom, talking about the Leap of Faith documentary with William Friedkin about The Exorcist. So you could check that out. That was fun to talk about a movie that's not terrible for once.
Yeah, it was very good, and it was a good conversation.
Yeah.
It was good.
I'm not sure when it's coming out, but Kit and I are recording a podcast on Monday about metal, and I think specifically the band Bong Ripper, so that'll be fun.
Hell yeah.
That'll be a podcast called Diary of Doom, but we'll talk about that whenever that gets recorded and we know it's coming out. You can leave us ratings and reviews on all that shit. Follow us on Twitter at I Hope You Suffer and Instagram at I Hope You Suffer Podcast. Listen to Kit's other podcast, Riff Raff. Follow Katie at Werewolf Face. Listen to my new podcast, Nate and Kate Movie Club. We are not recording an episode this week because everything's the worst.
That's fine.
Yeah, so we took a week off to just be like, oh, this sucks. Let's just look at our phones.
I mean, yeah, pretty much. That's why I was like, I was doing these like Animal Crossing like commissions, and I had promised like 2 people they would have theirs this week, and I was just like, I'm sorry, I can't. Like, too much is going on.
Yeah.
So it's fine.
Yeah, so I don't know. We gave you a bunch of shit to check out. Go
Do
check
it.
things out. Don't watch Gnome Alone.
No.
All right.
Definitely don't.
I hope you suffer, but why?
Don't leave Gnome without it.
Actually,
That's a good one.
we don't hope
haven't
you
said that.
suffer. We only hope you suffer if you're a cop or a white supremacist.
Yeah.
Everybody else, you're cool. We love you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, bye.
Them white niggas you fuck with turn Tiki Torch real quick, real quick, real quick. You apply almost me. Did you consider us friends? Say it is right with our head or we're with criminals then. You want to set my feelings up? Say ask me what I'm